Shit. Oh, shit, boy. What's going on, Chad? Oh my goodness, that is blurry. I must have moved it. Oh well, we'll fix it in a moment. Actually, we'll fix it now. There, yeah, see, told you. I just had to freaking talk shit about it. Hello, chat. Welcome back to another Therapy Thursday. It is me, the Kilted Pork, the good white meat pigginess bacon manufacturing whatever. Anyway, I'm here. Hello. Again, like I said, Therapy Thursday. If anybody's new here, doesn't know what Therapy Thursday is, every Thursday we get together here on my channel at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, and we are joined by my sister Asteria, who is a licensed therapist, and we like to discuss mental health topics or just whatever's going on in our lives and try to break it down from like a therapist's point of view. This week we are having back on again, once again, crap, I don't remember. Secret Wookie was their name, because they have a different name on Discord. So I look at that name and I'm like, is it that one or is it their Twitch one? And I just don't remember sometimes. But again, we discuss mental health topics, and we encourage anybody to come into chat if they have anything they want us to talk about. Drop it in chat and we will discuss it and break it down. If you have anything where you're like, oh, why am I feeling like this, or or how do I react to that, or I'm trying to seek a therapist, or is my mom a narcissist? And she probably is, and Asteria will explain that in a moment. Sorry, I'm a little bit flabbergasted. I've had a week myself, so we'll probably be diving into that during the stream. And if you're passing through on YouTube and watching this and go, well, what's this all about? Well, I explained it. If you would like to join in live, check the link in the description below the video. That should take you right to my Twitch page, or you can just type it into your URL browser, twitch.tv/kilted_pork. All right, let's get him in here. I'm gonna do my normal thing that I messed with her last week. Hello, I know somebody's in here. Hello.
You came in as a 10 and you added 2. I literally was just sitting here, and then you said, I was like, I got scared.
I'm gonna yell into my microphone next time. You're like, bah!
I personally love this energy.
No. Then you book it, I keep it. I was like,
Keep it at 10. Keep it at 10.
I'm good at 2s. I promise I'm good at 2s. Anyway.
I'm good at 2s also. I had a 2 right before I jumped in the shower.
And we are going to go ahead and keep on keeping on. Hello, everyone. We are live with another Therapy Thursday, I see. We are here once again.
What happens when you add a 2 to the end of that 2? You get a toot.
That's true. It's very true.
Today.
Somebody's got to bring the funny.
You got it. I'm giving that to you today. I mean, ultimately, am I giving it to you, or you just have it and yes?
I don't like taking it as a man.
Hey, everyone.
The silence.
I'm Asteria. And you have to introduce yourself.
I'm Secret Wookie. Hello.
Welcome to Therapy Thursday. Did you already do your whole thing?
What, shower? Yes.
well,
no, yeah, I did the intro. Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Who did that come out of you?
That was amazing.
FYI, if anybody's into seltzer waters, kind of like LaCroix or whoever, they are very carbonated.
Oh, nuh-uh.
Yes, very much so.
Oh, well then, the more you know.
I am not drinking LaCroix. I have a different brand that I never heard of, but it's good, so.
It's LaCrud? Is it the off-brand?
LaCrud. It's a le drink.
That's a drink. That's the motto.
Spicy water, yeah.
Liquid. Sorry. Is this the time where I say my spiel?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Asteria. I am a marriage and family therapist. I work under the jurisdictions of California. I do have to specify that because, again, if anyone has questions, comments, or concerns of what they're going to bring into the chat, I could only speak on behalf of like the boundaries of California. Every state is differently, and if you're a clinician outside of the United States, then that's a whole different fucking ballpark. Anyway, I like to use this platform to give back to the community. Mental health is expensive. Being mentally or having mental health or untreated mental health is more expensive, actually. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns you'd like to bring into this chat and we'll talk about them, feel free to do so. My boundaries are I do not do diagnosing in here, and I don't talk about suicide for anyone that is under the age of, or that's 18 and younger. Let's see. And so if you have any general questions about relationships, trauma, dissociation, differentiation of different diagnoses, substance background, that's also one of my backgrounds I work with. If you have any questions, comments, concerns related to all of that, feel free to do so. And I think that's pretty much it. If you we're just gonna be chatting about different topics. I know that there's some that are gonna probably be brought up today, and along the way, if you want to just throw your questions, comments, or concerns into the chat, we'll go ahead and put a pause on what we're talking about and give what you're sharing with us a listen and give some feedback. I think that pretty much covers it.
Indeed. So, actually, Wookie, what are your qualifications? All
I really
right.
don't think that much. My qualifications is I'm more than often turned into the person that my friends speak to, and I, quote, am the voice of reason amongst a majority of them.
Better than what I got going on, so that's good. I'm just a guy with a computer and a camera. So
I mean, he also has the background of working with kids, and developmental stuff is also important to talk about.
see, there you go.
Yeah. I can spin anything.
I wish I had someone that could come in here and into chat and discuss some stuff about children that I had to hear about today while at work, but I doubt that they're watching, but I don't have the liberty to be talking about it, so.
And we will respect that boundary.
Yeah. Being a parent is hard from what I hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so how are you?
How are you, Secret Wookie?
Wow,
no,
deflected.
Listen, the ADF will not allow this.
The AVF?
Nothing.
ADF.
Nothing. Nothing.
Or the ATF,
Anyway.
alcohol, tobacco, and firearms?
Hello, my name is Asteria, and I am an alcoholic with a rifle.
Oh my god.
I'm mad because
Asteria.
I can't get ammo, wrapping papers, or a bottle opener that has titties on it. I'm offended.
Who took your dude?
Gosh.
They took my derb.
Okay.
Oh, this is starting off on the wrong. This is supposed to be a helpful place.
It is a helpful place.
I'm deceased.
He's dead.
There you go.
Like-
Hello, I'm Kilted Pork, and I identify as being deceased.
Hi, dead guy. I'm actually,
In a way, I'm
here.
dead.
I'm also dead.
Yes.
I'm here. I think today was not good, and I'm here.
Go
so-
on. What's up, Combo? How are
okay.
you?
So, okay. one of the very real sides and very misunderstood sides I feel that comes with the job sometimes is that whole thing of like, I don't know, well, actually I'm gonna assume that some folks can relate that they have heard one way or another of being sent and being like, or being sent to the hospital, or being sent to the psych ward, or they know somebody, or they watched it in like a movie or in some social media of like, oh, I told my therapist too much and now I'm being sent to the hospital for assessment. Well, I want to give you that from the perspective of the therapist, because that's what I had to do today.
I mean, it has to, there's laws that they have to abide by to a certain extent, right? Or you.
Absolutely.
Like, if...
Oh, yeah, that is me.
Well, first break it down. What would cause, like, what are the lines that bring in the old wacky box?
Oh, that's a really
the
good
wacky
question.
wagon. Oh, that's a good name for it.
So, the wacky wagon. I like that one. So because I am a marriage and family therapist, that means I am a mandated reporter. And I do have what are broken down into limits to confidentiality and barriers to confidentiality. The limits are much more black and white, and if I suspect enough, I have to call the respective like protective service for some folks. The limits of confidentiality is if I suspect abuse, neglect, or abandonment related to anyone that's 18 and under, anyone that is a legal or a legally identified dependent adult. So also, yeah, like people that are medically dependent, and are identified as so and needing others to function, or
disability dependent.
Yeah, so forth.
Really old.
And oh no, that's also separate, because I mean, yeah, it is really old, but that in itself, that could be just, again, they could be gravely disabled, and that's important. But also we're talking about I'm also have to protect people that are 65 and older, because they can experience abuse and neglect, but they also can experience financial abuse. So if they have folks that are like taking advantage of them, taking their money, they're getting, they have family members that are scamming them, I have to report that. Because they need that in order to live. And that is my limits to confidentiality. So what that means is that if I suspect that, I have to then call the respective protective service within a certain time frame. It's dependent on which population it's with, but I have to call and I have to do a verbal report within a certain time limit, and then I have to do a written report in a certain time frame. So that's it with my limits to confidentiality. My barriers to confidentiality are limited to harm to self, harm to others. And so in that's much more gray, especially as an individual that works with trauma. I have to, or like, suicidality comes up. I hear about it all the time. That's why whenever I'm talking to the general population or folks that are not in the field, and we talk about suicide, and they get very like, oh no, and that's a very taboo to talk about. I'm like, hey, that's like the same thing as like, oh, you're suicidal, and what are you having for lunch today? Like the same kind of like generalness to the questions. But anyway, so harm to self, suicidality is very common, obviously, in the population of trauma. And there's a certain line to which I have to jump in the name of safety, right? So if an individual comes in with suicidality, or engaging in like not what is called non-suicidal self-injurious behavior, so like self-harm and so forth, that may not constitute an immediate need to call. We have to continue to assess and see if this person can contract for safety or engage in behavior that challenges the self-harm behavior and so forth, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, if the client says like they are suicidal, they have a plan, they have intent, they have means to do it, and so forth, or like they can't be straightforward about their ability to commit to safety,
Mm-hmm.
I have to call what is called the it's called PERT, and it's a psychiatric emergency response team. I think that's the abbreviation, but and what it is that it's where it's supposed to be, it's not always, but it's supposed to be someone that works for the particular force of that county and so forth, and they take out and do a psychiatric evaluation to see if you should be taken to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, then if you don't, then they kind of just go away, and we just update it and document and kind of get you ready to go. Maybe you said it very like that you're just upset and you're just saying it and calling it a day. Again, I'm only saying this in relation to higher levels of care, because people in higher levels of care, meaning ones that are not outpatient where you see a therapist like weekly or bi-monthly, ones that are like needing like 24-hour observation or needing like more intensive care, we need to go through these steps. And if they say, hey, you're still a threat to yourself, they have to take you to the hospital, and then they might put you on a hold, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make it also very clear that many times, I think even at the outpatient level of care, they don't necessarily, like, I'm gonna be honest, we don't want to do it. As much as people are like, oh, therapists just want to like hear about suicide and they're gonna send you off to the hospital, we don't want to do it.
That sounds like paperwork.
It's not only that, but it's just heartbreaking. Like, I'm feeling it today. I'm feeling it right now still, because it is paperwork, but I'm so used to the paperwork. That's not the part that gets to me. It's the fact that I had to go in, and because there wasn't a psychiatric or a mental health individual to come assess, so the police came out, and then they are not trained to assess and understand mental health pieces. They were belittling me, and I
The
had to
police
stand
were?
yeah, they were belittling me. They were putting me down, and they were putting down, and then all in the name of like just seeing if this person can go get help and not kill themselves. And then the client was obviously not doing well. I convinced I swayed them, because they were like, we need to put you in cuffs. I was like, no, let me walk out with them. They're not a threat, I promise you. Like, they just can't commit to safety. But they were like holding them and kind of manhandling the client, and then the clients were like saying like they're getting scared.
Yeah,
and they're like,
obviously.
I'm gonna run, and I was like, fuck. And right when they said that, they put him in cuffs, and I just had to be professional there the whole time, and it's like my whole insides were churning, and I'm painful, and I had to do a report for them, and then they took him away. And that is the last time I'm going to see that client, because particularly with this client, the situation is that they don't get to come back after this. Like, they have to transfer to another thing, because again, I'm not going to go into the details, but they just have to go somewhere else after this psychiatric hold, right? And I had to hear them screaming my name in the car, in the police car, and they're kicking and screaming because they're scared. And I'm like, so no, it's not the fucking paperwork. And no, we don't want to do the call, because many a times, because there is such a lack of mental health support and kind of access to resources, that we have to deal with that shit. And it's just heartbreaking, because now I don't get to do proper goodbyes. I don't get to do anything. That was the last time I get to see that individual. And now I have to hope and pray that they're going to be okay. And that's all I can do. And so no, I'm feeling it. That's where I'm at today.
Is there any way you can like submit a like complaint to the sheriff's department or whatever district that came to your office? And be like, hey, you know, names, badge numbers, like these guys were very unprofessional. Like, this is a mental health facility and they just made shit worse. Like, they took something that was at like a 4 and they escalated it until it was a problem. Like,
yeah,
your employees.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I could definitely follow up to see if this is the case. I know that this has been reported before, and it had, and I mean like multiple times, and just things haven't changed. And that's a systemic problem. Like, that's the whole thing of the systemic problem. So whenever I hear folks say of like, oh, about whatever force or whatever you believe in and whatever approach you have in thought between mental health, the police and everything like that, I'm like, it is still a systemic problem, because despite there being, quote, good versions of whoever in the field, not just other fields, but even my field, there are still people that ruin the name for everybody. Yes. So it's like, you have to check, as much as folks are like, well, not all, right? And I was like, yes, and enough, right? There's enough of. So there needs to be reform.
I mean, there's a reason why there's a warning on like any appliance that says don't put your baby in the dryer, because somebody did that. They're like, well, they wanted to play in there. And I was like, well, we can't go to Disneyland this week, so.
There you go.
Woo.
So harm to self is the other one. Harm to others is much more particular. I'm not going to go into the whole freaking court case that happened. You could just look up Tarasoff and they'll tell you the details of that. But ultimately, harm to others is if there's an identifiable person and means, intent, and ability to harm somebody with plan and intent and so forth, I have to report that too.
Right.
Now, I want to make this very clear, though. As I said, sorry, I did miss a piece of that. It has to be present to future based. I have to make that clear, because if you did that in the past, I can't report it.
Gotcha.
And I've had clients, they've done stuff. And I've been told, they're like, you should, like, I've gone, people have told me, they're like, you should be able to tell somebody about that. You should. And I was like, I can't. Like, they're like, but it's the morals, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I can't.
I can't.
That's my job.
Yeah.
So, the end. So that is all of that, and in relation to what's going on with me.
That sounds horrible.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got to agree with that one. That sounds like a really, really bad day.
Yeah.
Well, that's nothing compared to what I had to deal with. I clipped my fingernails and I missed one of my fingers. So I have one long nail and the rest of them are nice. And you think you have problems. I'm kidding.
You know what?
Blake Boss, thanks for the follow.
You're right. I'm gonna put that over here, boss. But anyway, that's like, the thing about all of that, just to wrap it up, that bothered me the most, again, in the whole aspect of mental health world, is the part where I had to, one, see how they were handling my fucking client. Ugh.
Literally handling. Like it's a fucking shopping cart.
Like, this person, I can't say too much. The cop was probably a 6 foot tall, husky built, muscular man. And this was a smaller individual. Like, what threat? Sorry, see?
There you go. Let's see. Blake Boss says, mental health checkpoint. How y'all doing? We're doing good, Blake Boss. Well, hold on. Let me rephrase that. Asteria's having a day. I've had a week. Secret Wookiee, we have not gotten to him yet, but there is a topic we're going to be discussing, I assume, about something going on with his friend, and a situation that's carrying over from last week. But if you have any mental health questions that you'd like to drop in the chat, feel free, and Asteria here, who is a professional therapist, will be able to answer your questions to the fullest extent of the law. Or
that
something
I can.
that you can't. There we go.
And the other thing that sucked was being belittled. Like,
yeah, that's pretty bad.
Like that part, I'm just like I had to kind of be snarky and smart about it, because they're like, this is a mental health facility. Shouldn't y'all be trained, or like, aren't you trained to deal with this? Why are we here? And I'm like, first of all, I took a breath.
And did you recommend them to therapy?
I should have. I was like, there is a location set up just for you, because it sounds like you need it too, with all of that very confident self-esteem over there, sir. Anyway, but and then I had to like challenge them, because they're like, do you think that this is all an act? Like, they're just making this up? Keeping in mind that despite if it's an act, despite if it's making up, that the comorbidity or the intersection of like where all this person's diagnoses are could be where they engage in irrational behavior to the point where they may push it too far in an attempt to get attention to where they might die, to which I've had clients die because of that. Yeah, I'm gonna take it seriously.
Yeah.
So I had to say that, and it shut them up real quick, and I was just like, dang. And they were like, ooh, like, and it was like feisty, and I was like, I'm like, ooh. I'm like, don't, ooh, it's okay. I go to therapy for this. I breathe. Like, I work on myself. Good, have fun, enjoy whatever lack of self you have. Have a good one. The end. So thank you for listening.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal.
Yeah. So the fun side of mental health world. So that's how I'm doing. Whose turn is it next?
Wookie. Let's see. Blake Boss says, oh no, a therapist, I got nothing against them really, but after what happened last time I said anything to a therapist, oh no. Oh, so you had an incident. That's just kind of what we were covering. So I'm assuming, Blake Boss, that you might have said something to a therapist, and they either, well, we were discussing, they either had to do something legally, or they did something they weren't supposed to because there's only certain things that they can share, and it has to be along the lines of self or other harm prevention thing.
Yeah.
I'm not good with words.
That's okay. You're doing a good job. But yeah, again, just as we were saying, like, and I will say again, as a therapist that I am, we don't want to do it. We're not investigators either. So and I say this again, I can't speak on behalf of all therapists. I can only speak on behalf of myself.
And in California.
In California. Is that I cannot dig up a bunch of information to criminalize you or put you in a position to admit things. It's that if it's gone to a point where it's like, oh, you are a harm to self and my job is to maintain safety, I got to do what I got to do. And we were just talking about how that is excruciating, how I got to go take that home. And now I'm probably going to think about that for quite some time. Every time I've ever had to call, I have not forgotten about them. And I have gotten updates along the way where they are now doing okay and they're thriving and they got help and they went back to school and it's really unfortunate in the moment, but hey, there might be a chance at different things coming up in the future. So I guess that's all worth it.
So, I mean, that's got to make you feel better. It's like that was a crap moment, but they got the help they needed. Now they're doing better than ever.
Yeah, I literally have had because recently the program that I used to work with, but I still am contracted to work with, They're doing this thing where they're calling up old clients to see like, hey, how are you doing? What's been going on? Blah, blah, blah. And the clients that I had to make calls on are reporting that they're going to work now and they're in relationships and they're in school and they're finishing up degrees and they're doing better than ever or they're sober. And it's just like,
Damn.
and when I hear that, it's like it makes what the discomfort and the pain of I feel right now like worth it. And I think that's really important in retrospect to mental health, because many times folks think that quote good mental health is feeling good all the time, but feeling good all the time is impossible, or you're avoiding uncomfortable emotions. And there's nothing wrong with discomfort. It's about the relationship you have with discomfort. And it's okay to feel those feelings, move through them, and keep on just meeting the ebb and flow of life, in my opinion.
Yeah. Blake Boss here, what they're saying, oh my goodness, okay, this might actually make you cringe a bit, Asteria. So they say, yeah, I'm almost 23 and the dude released info about what I talked about with him to my snake of a father, apparently because my dad gave him some money and they're friends.
Oh.
Ooh, that sounds like it's got a lawsuit written all over it.
Oh, that's HIPAA. That's literally
HIPAA laws broken.
That is broken. HIPAA. Oh, you're right. This isn't cringe. This is anger. I'm angry now. Like, no.
Oh, they say that lawsuit is already in the works. Good job there.
Okay. I am just frustrated. I'm very happy that there is a lawsuit that is happening. I'm so sorry you're going through that at all. That is such a violation of your HIPAA. That is such a violation of your everything, your human experience, your ability to have a safe place. This is the shit in my field that pisses me off. Like, I'm genuinely upset because there is so little places in this goddamn world where you could feel safe to fucking express yourself and talk about very vulnerable, painful topic and so forth. And it was abused. And I'm like, and that I can't fucking stand it. In the name of money, how dare somebody value money over like humans, period. Like, it's people like this, as I said, yes, not everyone, but enough. It's people in my field like this that piss me off. I don't know if many people know this, but I'm going to share a little fun fact with y'all about, at least again, the California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. There is an association, it's called CAMPT, and what we do is that when you apply for it, or if you're a part of it, you get a magazine every month. In the back of this magazine, they talk about legal lawsuits that are happening, but are towards therapists who broke the fucking law or broke the constitutes of the ethical bounds of their job. And it is like the equivalent of the bathroom walls of therapy world. And I have read some of the most horrendous fucking things that therapists have done to their clients in the back of that magazine. And I'm like, I know how long it took for you to get that degree. I know how much sacrifice you needed to get that degree. And you threw it all away for money, sex, drugs. Like, what's... It's aggravating to a degree I don't think words is going to capture.
Well, from your point of view, as people that have watched this before know, that you and I come from a shitty household.
Correct.
Now, do you think, I mean, there was a reason you were attracted to mental health as a as something to study?
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure some of that was brought forth, the curiosity of it was due to our father.
Of course.
Now, do you think that other therapists might be coming from broken situations also. Not all of them, obviously, but you know, that, so they're like, hey, what's going on here? So maybe that, you know, it's like, well, what are you working on? I mean, because you said this before, if you get a therapist, make sure they're in therapy.
Correct. That is genuinely a yellow flag. I encourage people anytime when they're getting treatment to check. Like, when people are like, what are questions I should ask my therapist? I'm like, genuinely ask if your therapist has a therapist. Like, because this is a yellow flag. You cannot possibly be listening to these stories day in and day out without some sort of support. As an example to truly try to capture the magnitude of the stories I hear in my job, because I hear this silly little joke from people, especially that I knew or that are new that I meet, where they're like, oh, haha, what is the worst story that you ever heard, right? And yes, I'm mocking you if you've done this to me.
Sorry.
Is that, oh, what's the worst story you've ever heard? I'm like, and I look them dead in the eyes now, and I'm like, it's like, hey, you know the worst thing you've ever gone through? Yeah, that's a Tuesday for me for 1 hour of the many I'm working. And their face shifts. They're like, oh God. I'm like, yeah, I hear that day in and day out, and you think I could just go home with that? There's no possible way. So whatever's the worst trauma you've gone through, I've heard it. And I encourage you to check in with your therapist to see if they're getting treatment. And I know that there's therapists that are broken and hurt too, because I have heard therapists come in and projecting their eating disorders. And so when they're hearing their clients that are sharing like that they're engaging in bulimic behavior or anorexic behavior or binge eating disorder, they're congratulating them, or they're not giving them the proper treatment because that means they have to admit that their own faults or their own problems. I've heard therapists, I've known therapists that have met with their clients outside of clinical hours to drink with them.
Jeez.
And party with them. Yeah. Like, I cannot tell you that the integrity of the job is so important because of what we are held to. There's such a high standard, so much so that we are a public figure. And in being a public figure, at least when I was in my grad program, they said that means whenever you're in public, be on your best behavior.
Oh, that sucks.
Because if for an example, right? If I get pulled over and I'm drinking and I'm under the influence of drinking, it goes in this order where they report it to the law enforcement and then they report it to the Board of Behavioral Sciences immediately. And then I will now have to go through in front of the law to deal with that, and then I'll have to go in front of the board and deal with that. That is how high of a standard that we are held to, and people seem to disregard, or they're desensitized because they've been in the field for so long that they feel like they can't be touched. And it's like, at any point you can fuck it up so bad someone can die. Take it that seriously.
Yeah. Let's see. Blake Boss says, because you were mentioning how you dealt with so much trauma, or like listening to other people's trauma. He said, I've been shot. So I don't know if you've had to like hear those stories. I'm sure you have.
I have.
Yeah, and so then they say, I feel bad for therapists. They have to listen to people's shit, even dealing with their own shit a lot of the time. Yeah, I mean, it's brutal. And honestly, it's not just in your field, because when I was dating the doctor, she would, when I would see her, it was just like, man, these people just fuck. I'm like, you got to see a therapist. That's even before, like, you and I were even talking about this. I didn't think you had your license at this point. I was like, you need to see a therapist. And she was like, why would you say that about me? It's like, no, like, seriously, you are taking on all this weight. And then when I see you, you dump it on me. I try to help, but it got to a point where I'm just like I don't know what else to say, because this is now beyond my scope of help from just being some guy that's come from, drug addicted, gun wielding father.
Okay, right.
So it's just like I was like, you, like, because the stories that she's told of just clients like coming in, and they just don't listen. They just like, I want this. No, that's not the problem. You don't know what you're talking about. Sure, I don't. 8 years of school didn't do shit. Okay,
Yeah.
I've only
And
been
that's ultimately,
I've only been working in a freaking like in the medical field for like 20 years. Yeah, I don't know anything.
And that's also the thing. So I also want to say, although and I appreciate the empathy given to therapists, and I want to say that, and I'll keep doing it because I love my job as much as everything that I'm saying right now. Like, I love my job. I love showing up. I love being there for folks. I adore the ability because again, I can't control all the therapists of the world. I can't, or like the only bounds to which I can have control is me and myself and I. And in that, I know that I'm showing up as genuinely as I can to my clients. And I know that that takes being left in a very vulnerable state. So after days like this, I come home, I cry, I feel it, I go through it, I talk about it with my therapist, because I do have a therapist. Shout out to Judy. And then I go to bed and wake up and do it all over again the next day, because then I get to hear some of the most beautiful stories ever of like horrendous things happening, and then them falling in love with themselves again, and
hello, hey shaker,
being happy and getting that that dream job and prospering. I literally just heard the other day, I had a client that was so severe in the dissociative disorder. They have DID, which is dissociative identity disorder, which is very rare, unlike what TikTok tries to train or tell people. It's very rare, and it's very difficult it can be very impactful to live with and function with. And I had a client, and it was tooth and nail working with this client, and it was not easy, and it was heartbreaking. And then they ended up moving on in their lives, and when they checked in to see how they're doing, they're sober, they got their job, they're happy, they're not engaging in their eating disorder, and they found purpose again. That's why I do my job, because of course anything that I think that is worth sitting in means to sit in discomfort and pain, because there's beauty in it.
Yes.
So
all right, that was fun.
Yeah. Yep. Welcome to
Woogie. Sounds like he wants to fall asleep already. He's like, yeah, jeez. Let me sit down.
I'm taking it all in. That was no offense, that was a lot to kind of take in.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the gift.
Yeah, it's like I didn't say thank you. How very inappropriate. Thank you.
That being said, I'm going to still hold time to hear the check-in from Wookie, because he hasn't checked in.
From who? I'm sorry. I didn't hear. Honestly, I think it cut out.
Oh my god. It's Wookie's turn to check in.
Yay.
I'm gonna feel bad for saying this. I have had a phenomenal week.
Yeah,
Asshole.
Tell us about it. 2 times of people.
Yeah, tell us about it. Like, fuck you.
That's why I had to preface it with an apology. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm doing great.
You're being great. Please be great. Oh my god, don't listen to Kilton. Your turn. Please tell us about your great
I'm listening.
Damn it.
Slowly inching away from my computer. Well, I got a lot of things in the mail that I had ordered a while ago. And Asteria knows why I will not do my cackle. But I got a full work weekend, back to feeling much better. Yeah, this week has been amazing aside from being stuck in traffic today.
Oh, that must have sucked.
No, I was getting paid for it.
Oh,
there you
then
go.
I can't be that.
As long as it affords the fill up on the tank, I suppose.
We had a meeting today in like where the big boss for our department was there. And over summer, we got very close because I had to write so many serious incident reports. And as soon as I walked into the meeting, they looked at me and they just squinted at me, and I was like, "I'm just gonna sit down. I'm here. Hello." But yeah, it's been a phenomenal. You know what? I won't say phenomenal. It has been a solid week.
So he's saying it's not been a liquid week. It hasn't been a gas-based week either.
You are right.
How does that make you feel, Tilted?
Well, before I did go into my thing, Hey Shaker has jumped into chat. Hello. They have a question, and I can already tell them the answer to this is no. That's bad advice. They say, people keep advising me to lie to myself to deal with my depression. Is that good advice?
No. However,
there's a difference between lying to yourself and then positive affirmations towards yourself.
So yes, thank you. Exactly. The thing is, oh gosh, I'm gonna go on the tangent. I can feel it, but I'm
That's
gonna do
taking the derivative. Here we go.
I'm gonna go ahead and do the quick version. Yes, I agree that no, you should not be lying to yourself, because again, you ultimately are working with the authenticity of self. And ultimately, regardless if you can convince yourself enough that you're lying to yourself, your subconscious and your gut intuition can tell when you're being authentic and not being authentic with yourself, and will respond accordingly. So I would just encourage to keep that in mind. However, if you engage in positive affirmations or trying to lean into ways to find to say neutral things about yourself, or positive things, but not in that toxic positive kind of way, but enough where it's like I could handle this enough to say it to myself, like I think that could go a long way. Again, when you say affirmations, it doesn't mean you necessarily have to 100% believe it. It could even be something you wish you could think about yourself, and I would encourage you to continuously find smaller ways to kind of give that to yourself, because the belief of when you give yourself positive affirmations that you're lying is false. When you say negative things about yourself, you are lying to yourself, because again, those are just things that have been implemented into thought and you adopted it as truth. But what you can easily do is that you could challenge it by saying like an affirmation in the mirror or to self like once or twice per day, and you will start to literally change the physiological makeup of your brain and your nervous system, to where it will get rid of that belief, or it will get rid of in reinforcing that belief, and eventually you can start accepting the opposing belief or the positive affirmation. So that does take time and commitment and consistency, and that can go a long way. And that's the end of my tangent. See, I'm getting better at them.
Yeah, kind of like when you say, I'm going to get up and walk every day, a mile, every morning. It's going to suck at first, but eventually it just kind of becomes habit. And then when you don't go for that walk, you're like, ugh, this doesn't feel right. So when your brain starts going back to negative stuff, you're like, ugh, that doesn't feel right at all.
Yeah, I actually can confirm that one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
You want to take the floor?
What were we talking about?
You.
Oh, that's me. Sorry, I was staring at a thumbnail of a man in his underwear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that for you.
There's so many questions now.
So many questions. You can check it out in the Discord later. It's a song. But
Oh no! I know what you're talking about.
it's funny. All right, wait a minute. Oh, I've had a week. Yes.
I hope so.
Boy, all right. Let's start with today.
Well, that's today, but not the week. Okay, let's start today.
We'll start there because this one's easier. So
Okay.
I'm going to start and go backwards this week. Today is not yours, but my mother's birthday.
I know. I wished her a happy birthday.
And how did she respond?
Thank you.
That was it.
That was it.
I had to dig deep and say, all right, just wish her a happy birthday. That's all you got to do.
Oh, you challenged yourself today because you could have easily said nothing.
Exactly. And it got under my skin, but I did it. And I was like,
Okay.
happy birthday, send. A little bit later, I don't know how much longer, I don't know, I wasn't paying attention to the time at that point, but I get a response with, wow, thank you. I was like, what? Why did you have to preempt that with a wow? Like, I was like, really? You got it? Why? Did you have to say that? Yes, I know that I automatically went defensive.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna go back to my corner. You got it. You're doing good.
Yeah, so I'm just like, why? Why is that wow? Like, I tell you happy birthday. So why is this a surprise?
Because again, it's the challenge to what the norm is, or it's like a surprise guest, right? Because again, you heard wow, I heard wow, right? These are two different inflections, and so like wow, thanks. So, because again, I could only imagine this is a text message, right?
Yes.
And the thing about text messages, and I want everyone to hear me on this one.
You can't read their actual response or whatever.
You can only interpret the tone of the message, and it is broken down through the lens to which you choose to interpret. This is why many times when folks are like, why did you say that? It's like, what do you mean, why did I say that? There's a great sketch by Kay and Peele that I think represents this. It's this whole one between where they're like mating up for drinks or something, and one is taking on a very defensive approach and the other one's taking on a very nonchalant approach. And so when they're like going back and forth, the one taking defensive is like getting hyped up, and you see that him getting really angry, and he's like gonna like go fight the other one, while the other guy is smoking from his bong and playing video games, and he's like, oh, this guy's such a great friend. Right? Because this comes down to mentalization. Yes, oh, here we go. Like, however many times I said it in the stream, it comes down to how you interpret based on what you're given, and how many a times people interpret these messages based on their history, and that they're responding to their trauma rather than to the situation at hand. So, in all of that, if we looked at the text from your mom and said, instead of saying it wow, and said, wow, how would that change the relationship that you have with that text message?
It'd probably be different. Like, I wasn't... It's somewhere in the middle of the two different versions you did of it. It's more like, wow. That wow was, oh my God, you actually said happy birthday to me. But, like, I expected you not to say anything. Kind of, you know what I mean? Because, I've dealt with her my whole life. I know how she talks, so...
And that's also very fair. Because, again, you could only interpret also based on history, right?
Yes.
So if you have had this experience with her and this is the response that you have, that's one thing, and that's a very fair way to interpret that. My question is, what does it mean to you in that if that is what her wow meant.
What, the way I interpreted it?
Yeah.
What does that mean to me? It's like, it feels just kind of like snarky and sarcastic. I mean, I mean, I can kind of relate that to a time where I'd done a race somewhere, and I remember I posted a picture of it on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think you remember. And my uncle, her brother, so my mother's brother, said, "Wow, congratulations, good job." But I know his attitude. And he's like, "Man, you're doing good." And he said, "Your mom should be, must be proud of you." And then she responded, "I am proud of him. I just wish he would actually invite us to these things." And that's the part that bothered me on that situation, because I specifically did invite them to multiple ones of these things, and they would just ignore it and bail out. And it's just like, yeah, that's why I didn't invite you to this one, because one, it was far away, and two, you weren't going to go anyway, because I've literally done some of these like 20 minutes from the house, and you don't show up, even when I asked you to go. I'm like, "Can you please be there for this? This is a big one," and they just don't show up. So
Hold on real quick. Wookie, do you have any thoughts about what's being talked about so far?
Oh, I feel like I'm gonna side here with Kilton.
That's
just
fine.
like in the way that, like, whenever I read text messages, I take it as like the worst, or not like the worst. I take it like in a way that like leads me down like a not so great path of feelings.
Oh, interesting.
Like if someone just sends me like nice, or just like a single word response, like my brain just goes into like thinking of every possible thing that like, did I like, are they saying this in like a negative way? Are they not like happy that like I'm messaging them on their day? And like this is an interesting one.
Do you relate to that, Tilted, where that you see it in a similar way?
not always, but that has happened. And there are times when I've received texts from people, and have sent texts to people, and I'll see a response, or I'll think of my response, and then there's times like that where I go, I'm just going to call them, because this is not being received the proper way. And it has happened with some of my exes, and I know that they're upset about something. They'll text me, I'll respond, and then they get mad, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to call them, because this is obviously being misinterpreted. And then they'll ignore the call and say, I don't want to talk to you right now, and then they'll just continue to text. I'm like, no, see, this is where the problem's lying.
Exactly. And that's
Okay,
what
yeah.
I'm trying to say. Yeah, because again, it's that going back to what I'm saying, the experience, right? Because again, I'm not saying that I haven't done this before. Like, I've had so many experiences where I would be like, oh, things are okay, or I just kind of just say words, but it got so out of hand where I was hanging around such emotionally immature folks for so long. And if you're listening, you know who you are, and if you don't, go to therapy finally. So is this and leave me alone. But anyway, the point is this, is that I would stop texting after a while. I just kept doing voice messages because I wanted to be like, this is my tone. This is what I'm saying. Like, so you can't misinterpret what I'm saying, especially when I was with my very toxic ex-partner, where like everything was coming across, and they kept saying like, you're saying it like this, you're saying it like this, you're saying like this. I'm like, I'm actually not. And it gaslit me to the point where I was like, maybe I am saying it like that.
Yeah,
right?
Too bad there's no such thing as gaslighting.
It's all in your head.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had to challenge that because I couldn't. One, that just left me suffering and making me anxious and insecure in a lot of my relationships, and that wasn't fair to me. So I had to start practicing like when I got the messages, right when I saw it, I'm like, okay, stop for a second. Look at the context of what's being said. Check the facts, which is a great dialectic behavioral therapy technique for anyone that wants a skill out there. Check the facts. Does this does the tone I'm interpreting align with the conversation that's happening, right? And then despite that, I could just plainly ask, sure, of, hey, are you upset with me? But if you do that, that is what is called a form of emotional monitoring. Emotional monitoring is when you engage in emotional hypervigilance and you keep on checking to see if people are okay, to monitor if you can let down your guard. Right?
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
That is a reinforcement of anxiety. It is not a reinforcement of security.
Okay.
And so what I encourage instead is that I encourage, one is when you see the message, first of all, ask yourself, it's like, and check the facts. Does this tone align with what's been talked about? Does this person seem like they would have beef with me, or whatever the case may be, blah, 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 like just as a kind of staple word, right? And it's like, by checking that, you could also learn to respond rather than react. Because like we've talked about many a times in this stream, is that many a times people, even in little daily things, are still licking the wounds of their trauma rather than learning to live past it. And the example could be emotional monitoring. Hey, are you mad at me? Is everything okay? Blah, blah, blah. And after a while, what it's making the other person do is that they have to hold an emotional expression of self that may not be authentic in order for you to feel okay, which can turn into codependency.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before, but in case anybody's new passing through, it's kind of like that that text I had sent to Eggy. Like, what was it, last week or the week before or whatever? I was like, hey, you're awesome. And her automatic response is like, oh my God, are you okay? What's wrong?
See? Because you can hear how she interpreted your message, right? Because of her thing, or in her past, right?
Yeah.
So again, you could just see it and you can just trust. And this is what I do in all transparency. And yes, I have been left feeling very uncomfortable, but I'm going to be uncomfortable either way. So I'm going to choose this discomfort. And I go lean into the whole piece of trust. Now, does that leave me susceptible to being hurt? Sure, it does. However, does that feel better in the long run where I can reinforce trust rather than reinforcing my anxiety? I think so. But that's just me. So if I see that, I say to myself, if there was truly something wrong, I have to trust for myself that this person would just tell me. That's it.
But what if you don't trust them? Because, well, at least in my experience, people don't. There's a lot of people that avoid conflict and they won't. I mean, I'm guilty of it myself. Yep. Before, where it's like, there's like, I'm just going to hold on to this silent treatment until it fucking all explodes later. So it's like preemptive bomb diffusing is probably what my brain's trying to do. It's like, all right, what's wrong? Is there anything happening?
But when you do that, you may possibly be using so much extra energy that is unnecessary, or you might be or you might even be setting up for that possibility of that to happen. Because the thing is that when you keep on preparing for the bomb to go off, you're assuming there's already a bomb, right?
Yes.
And that is still enabling your trauma.
Okay.
Point blank. that is point blank still enabling your trauma. Because the thing about trust, and again, what I'm about to say, many people who are outside the field don't agree with me. It's okay. You don't have to, okay? And I'm still going to hold to my value in this. Many people say, you have to earn my trust, right? I heard that so many times of, you have to earn trust. So what I hear in, you have to earn my trust, is that I have to feel safe enough to be vulnerable with you.
Yes, that's me. 100% all the way.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Here's what I do instead. I worked on the relationship that I have with myself and got pretty solid with the relationship with me, so that when I go into new relationships, or I try to the best I can, again, I'm a human still, but I still try my darndest. Even if it's not right off the bat, and it's not perfect. Perfectionism doesn't exist. It's a form of addiction. Don't come fight for me. I will win. Is this? It's that I do the approach of, you have my trust until otherwise. Because if I'm already setting up this relationship where you have to chase after me, you're going to get tired. You're not like, you're going to be like, and because again, the race to getting to know me is subjective to where I could set it up where you never get close to me, or I'll never let you get close to me. And how is that not only fair to you, who's trying to lean into vulnerability to getting to get closer to me, but how is that fair to me to diminish the opportunity for me to have connection? And I'm not saying that I got this perfectly down. I'm working on it, right? And in doing that, I have to say, because again, I work through a lens of trust that I don't know if everybody does, but there's a lens of trust I work through, or I like to see through, that's broken down into the concepts of boundaries, reliability, accountability, like vault, so like holding confidence that what I share with you stays with you, integrity, non-judgment, and generosity. Those are like the main pieces to how I measure trust, because I think that many times people still might put humans on high platforms or high pedestals, and I feel that they're not set up because they value them so highly. I think that they have them really high because they're waiting for them to crash and fall and burn, and give such enough reinforcement to say, and I'm not going to get close to somebody like that again. And that just hurts people. That just keeps people from getting to connect with one another. And that's not fair. I don't think that's fair. I think that connecting with people is one of the most beautiful things that there is about being a human. And the connection that you could have with folks is so wonderful. And and many times people are trying to lick their wounds so much that it's actually now hurting them or becoming a burden to them, rather than allowing them to obtain what they need, which is probably connection.
I'm trying to relate that to the situation that I talked to you about on Monday, because
Would you like to share that with class?
Hi, my name's Kilted and I'm an addict.
Hi, Kilted.
Hi.
I've been sober for 3 seconds now. Anyway,
I'm about to say, I'm like, are you drinking?
No, I had some drinks last night. But anyway, so Monday, I had an incident at school with a female.
Oh,
who has been kind of in our little group or whatever, I guess. She knows Aggie from class, and so I got to make sure I have all the pieces in my head of what happened. So so when I hang out with Aggie just, I feel safe enough around her to share things, and this person has been around when I've shared things, and so like she knows that I am a lonely guy, and so she overhears this stuff, and I had made a comment Monday night when like everything was kind of closing up and we were all leaving the mass center, or the tutoring center, what do you want to call it. And so she was talking to somebody else about her sister, and she was like, oh, my sister's a swim instructor and she's doing this, blah blah blah, because like, somebody's like, oh, how's your sister doing? And I was like, oh my goodness, your sister's a swim instructor, can you introduce me to her? And her immediate reaction, not a response, was she laughed at me immediately, and she's like, no, I'm not gonna hook you up with my sister, like that's never gonna happen. And so my brain automatically, I'm sitting there and I was like, that's not what I meant she's a swim instructor. And she's like, yeah, but you always say that you're like a lonely guy or whatever, so I just assume that you're just trying to hook up with her. And I was like, well, I hate that that's the first place your thought goes to, because that immediate reaction fed into the two big insecurities that I have about myself. One, I don't like being considered a creeper, because people have always seen me as that, like through my younger years, back when I was like overweight and all that shit, and I never liked it then. I don't like it now. And then also and then the second one, I mean, these things are like tied for top two. It's like, one, I don't like being considered creepy, and two, I don't like being considered not good enough. So you not only were like, you're a creep for wanting to get with my sister, and two, you are not good enough for her anyway. That's what my brain heard, and I shut down immediately. I was like, I'm out of here. Fuck this. Go ahead.
Do you want to clarify why you asked to begin with, for anyone that's not familiar with your background?
Why I asked for her to meet her sister?
Yeah.
Because I, as myself being a triathlete, I do races that involve swimming, running, biking, and also Spartan races, as a shirt I'm wearing now, obstacle course racing. And I am a terrible swimmer, and I need to get better at it. So I was like, oh, swim instructor. Yes, please. I am so slow, and I don't like feeling like I'm drowning. So that's why I was like, let me talk to this person. I want to get better. And it automatically went to, you're trying to fuck my sister. I was like, oh God, here we go. Why does everyone see me like that?
Because, well, first of all, let's already challenge the black and white thinking of that everybody sees you like that, because not everybody sees you like that, right?
Yeah, not every. Well, Aggie, I brought this up to her after I got off the phone with you. I talked to her, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't get that vibe from you." I was like, "Well, thank you. That's one person.
Yeah,
I can at least guarantee."
But that's the truth. It's like, that's the whole thing, though. It's like, this is again the example of how people's trauma feeds off of each other, or their reactions feed off of each other. Because again, like, there wasn't that space to respond, right? There was just an automatic reaction where you gave the stimuli, their brain got the message, and then the first thing that came to mind they allowed come through their mouth, right?
Yeah, and
that was it. And
Hayshaker here says, well, most men are creepy to women.
Well, that's also another, that's again a very, it's, how do I say this? Do you remember how we were talking about earlier of like, there's not, like, of course not all, but there's enough?
Yes.
That's the whole, that goes into that message too, right? Because again, of course, it's not you, right? And there's this analogy I heard one time that was saying, like, it's like, hey, it's like not all like snakes are like poisonous or venomous and stuff like that, right? But if you aren't familiar with snakes, right? It's like and you get bit by and you know that they bite, you may be or you've been bitten in the past and got hurt in the past, or whatever the case may be, you may start being cautious around snakes, right?
Right.
Or you can't tell the difference of like, because again, when you're just looking at these some breeds of snakes, you can't tell if it's venomous or not. You don't have all these things, so it's like some folks are cautious, right? It's like, but again, that is still dependent on each individual, right?
Right.
And that's something I think is really important. Now, do I justify that it's gone to this point when it comes to how people view other people? No, I think it's such bullshit, and I think it's harmful, and it continues to support a rhetoric that just keeps people separated from each other and not connected, and that shit sucks.
Yeah, Combo says that he usually forgives early interactions like that at least once.
Yeah, and that is something I thank you, Combo. I think the thing is that again, this isn't I don't think, and I want to be respectful to your trauma too, Tilted, because it's true, and I know that we've been here and we've talked about this and everything like that. And it's like, again, this is somebody reacting to very similar in a way where they're like getting ready to defend themselves and protect themselves without actually learning to respond, right? And sometimes they become so knee-jerk, right, that they don't see the repercussions of how it hurts other people. And and there's also the piece of, is this person's reaction worth you holding on to or continuing to reinforce that, or understanding that, hey, this person is reacting through the lens of their pain, may also help you understand that, hey, that's not just because they feel this way or this is how they reacted doesn't mean that that defines me. And I think that's really difficult for some folks. I feel like many times people blend what I like to call is blending, and they blend a lot of their pains together, and they may be so hyper vigilant of their pain that when people say just words that have very little meaning behind it or very little thought behind it, to be in a general sense, that they may take it and amplify the value of it in order to reinforce their pain or reinforce the need to continuously to be defensive or to minimize vulnerability. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that it's something that you could just turn off. It's human nature. It's like, and in learning to go from the world of reacting to responding, is there ways to understand that, like, hey, that was a reflection of you. That doesn't mean it has to be a definition of me.
Right. And I basically discussed with her yesterday, because I saw her yesterday, and I was like, hey, this is what happened. You said this. I felt like this. Yada, yada, the whole spiel I just gave you. And she apologized, and she felt really bad about it. And she was like, well, you know, my past experience, when guys say that about my sister, I'm like, yeah, I get it. But it's like, I was like, whether or not it was from malice or you truly believed it or not, the response, or not the response, but the reaction that you threw out is what hurt me. Because like, I honestly I wouldn't be able to tell you what would hurt more if they said that on purpose as a response, like, hey, like, no way, bud, like, you know, out of malice, like, you're not good enough, or the reactive part, the way she did it. Because, like, one of them I see, it's like, this is burned into your head on both situations. It's like, you see me like this and you didn't even mean to act, like, respond that way or react that way, or you do see me that way and you responded that way after some thought. Either way, that still hurts.
Yes, of course. Yeah. It's still painful. Yes. That's what I'm saying. Either way, that's not taken away from you. that has every right to still be painful. And what I'm also saying in what I want to share is that I'm hoping the point of why I'm saying this is because I want to try to minimize the amount of pain you have to hold. That's what I'm trying to, I'm trying to get across. Again, I can only do the best I can at getting my message across.
Mhm.
It's like, and I also commend you for going back and talking to this individual about this, because you could have easily gone or walked away with this, carrying this, and this person would have been none the wiser. They would have never heard your point. It reminds me of that whole message of like drinking poison and being mad that the other person doesn't die. Like, because she could have just kept going on in life and she wouldn't have like even known that you went through or you're experiencing that. So, and you, whether you see it or not, I'm going to just take the plunge in making a guess, is that you value enough self just enough to realize this wasn't cool and you stood up for yourself.
Yes.
So that is big stuff. I am so proud of you. And after talking to her, how do you feel?
Better? Wait, not as a question. Let's say that as a statement. Better, not better. Better. There we go. Statement, not question.
I'm so proud of you. Oh, I'm so proud of you. Okay, good. Go ahead, Wookie. I'm so proud. Like.
Oh no! I was sharing in that moment.
Hey Shaker, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it very much. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. And she ended up coming with us to dinner last night because a group of like 6 of us went over to Wing Wednesday and had some wings. So, and yeah. Yeah, and honestly, like that reaction, because I talked to her about some other stuff, because then she started kind of like going into a hole because she felt so bad, and like kind of was like talking about it, and she's like, oh yeah, well this and that. So I was like, okay, yeah, she's dealing with her own problems.
Yes.
And it came out like that. So
do you have any thoughts so far, Wookie?
I mean, kind of going back to Hey Shaker's comment, like I've personally like been dragged into like a super uncomfortable situation by like people that were like that. And like my thing is I was going to a community college at the time.
Me too.
Listen, I hate when people come after community colleges. Like, you went to a community college. I despise that. I loved my experience at community college.
You mean you were smart about it and probably saved so much more money? Don't be a dingus like a Syria and going straight into university. So good. Very good stuff. Continue.
But like, and this is when like I was definitely like more like in shape, and you know, I was just walking the campus, minding my own business, like headphones are in, heads down, like I just want to get to class and like get the day over with. And like there was someone walking in front of me, but like again, it's none of my business who they are. Like, they're not my classmate or anything. Like, I would stop and like say hi to someone.
See ya, combo.
Like, a car just like pulled up on the side of like a busy street, and from what I gathered from like the situation, which it's like anytime like I'm walking somewhere and I see like something out of the ordinary, like a car pulls up to like the sidewalk and like slows down in the middle of a busy street, that's like a little suspicious. And I was like kind of on guard. But like they were being creeps to this person, and like I took my headphones off just to like make sure that like if they needed like something, like I could, you know, help out, or like just like, hey man, like just move on. And they turned to me and they try and rope me into this, trying to say that I've been checking this person out. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get to school. Like, just leave me alone. Like, with all due respect, I've got things I need to do. There's nothing wrong with that person, but I'm in the middle of something and like don't get me involved. So it's like I understand like Hey Shaker's comment, but also like I definitely understand where you're coming from, Kilted, in that feeling of like when someone makes that comment, like how it makes you feel.
He died.
No, I'm sorry. I was reading the comment, and plus a song came up that was like really obnoxious. Hey Shaker is saying, this is why I don't go outside unless I have to. But yeah, I kind of agree with you on that one. It's just like, because I don't like feeling like a creep. I mean, I bounce back and forth with trying to walk around with like confidence and authority. And then also there's just times where I'm like, I just look at the ground. If you stare at the floor, nobody can get mad at you, you know? Like,
yes. And I think like bless my parent for raising me the way they did. But it's like the way I am like taught is like I'm myself like uncomfortable with myself. And so it's like for me, like hearing the stories of like my friends and like my family members, like if I'm walking somewhere, like I want to make sure like it's very clear, like I am not trying to be that person. Like I'm not trying to make anyone uncomfortable. I'm just trying to do my thing and like get through my day, because like ultimately no one wants, I think, let me not say no one. I feel like people aren't going out or like going to school to like feel those eyes on them, and it's just it's not my place. So I'm just gonna head down. Even going upstairs, like I'm like, these are some nice stairs. Yeah. Yes, this is very nice. Oh, that's a new crack. It's just like a force of habit at this point. Like just head down, keep it moving.
It's like that piece of bubble gum has been there for 3 weeks now.
Yeah, exactly.
I do the same shit. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like I don't want to like look at people and make them feel uncomfortable because I want to be that creepy guy. And so that's why I mean it's kind of annoying because, as you know, being a straight man, I mean monkey brain's like, ooh, look at that, and I'm like, no, don't look at that. I want to find that piece of bubble gum. Where is it? So it's kind of tough. Did Hysteria die?
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I am still here. Yeah. No, I definitely want to validate, and again, this is something that's really, I think it needs to be talked about more, because again, I know many times even in here we talk about like trauma, but in a much more micro way of like of the channels of like family and like your immediate like upbringing. But I think that there is the factor of like the trauma from the micro circles and the micro systematic, or the macro, excuse me, not micro, macro areas of the world of like, you know, society and social media and, you know, approaches of fear mongering and, you know, interactions with each other with just strangers out in the days, right?
Yeah.
I think that's really important because again, like I know that, like, again, how do I say this? Because I want to be mindful.
Say it.
I want to say that, like, I try my best to try to challenge the relationship that folks have with each other out and just walking out and about, because I grew up in a city that people avoided eye contact with each other and greeting one another because that could initiate trouble that could have been life-threatening, right? And I know I use my energy, like when I'm walking around, even like if I'm on, you know, listening to music on the phone or whatever, when I walk past people, I can see the kind of like patterns and the type of presentations of folks who are much more willing to engage in like smiling and greeting one another versus other, ethnic backgrounds, social backgrounds, cultural backgrounds and all of that. And it's like, again, it's I hear people want to like take on this approach of like changing the world and thinking it has to be this big grand gesture, but I think it also comes down to these very micro interactions that we have with one another. And so when I pass people, I'll be like, oh, I'll smile, or I'm like, oh, good morning. Like they don't owe me anything in return, right? But doing that one gesture can be so important where people are like, oh, I don't have to keep looking on the ground to feel safe, or I don't have to keep avoiding eye contact so people don't think I'm a creeper, right? Because again, we can't control what, quote, people who are going to engage in whatever constitutes as creepy behavior, unquote, look like. Like there's so many misconceptions of what folks look like, certain populations, certain demographics that engage in like harmful behavior or like even criminalized behavior. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like when I was working at a popular retail facility store, many times people are like, oh, this is what people who are stealing from the store typically look like. And I was like, actually, like probably 97% of the time of the people I catch stealing shit were middle-aged moms coming in with strollers, right? They're the ones that would stuff stuff in there or try to sneak out like some stuff and everything like that. Now, for what their own purpose, that's to each their own, right? But again, these reinforced fear-mongering beliefs that we think that a certain kind of person is going to do this can really that could really impact other people just fucking existing, like men. And I my heart goes out to men, especially because like that's one of my backgrounds, the population I work with, or I worked with. And it's like, it's bullshit. There's so much undermined male mental health pieces. Like it's atrocious. It's absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad. Like I've been seeing like TikToks about like men's mental health and like dating and all that stuff that's coming through. And from what I'm gathering, it could just be the algorithm, is like a lot of men, especially around my age, they're terrified to talk to women anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because one guy put it is basically that women, if a guy talks to a woman and she's not interested, like he's not a good looking guy or whatever, he's being a creeper and should be shamed and put down. But if he's like attractive or whatever, then it's welcomed. But how, as a man, do we know where you stand? Is it worth taking that risk? And in my eyes, it's not. Because
that's a very valid piece.
Yeah, so it's like, but I don't like being alone. So it's like, do I take the risk and have the possibility of horrible shit happening? Or do I just fucking sit here and wallow in my pig filth? I guess it's not filth, but mentally it is.
I didn't say. I was like, oh my gosh.
My house isn't dirty, it just has a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I can definitely.
I just need another room. I have a printer I want to throw away, but I know I should recycle it, so it's sitting in my living room.
Do you still have the television?
Which one? Oh, no, I got rid of one of them. There's still another one sitting here.
Oh my fucking god.
Well,
anyway,
this one
sorry.
works. The other one didn't, so I finally recycled it. It's gone now.
Okay. Anyway, Wookie, do you have thoughts?
So for me personally, I feel like I'm in a very like interesting place where it's like a majority of my friends are female, and so like when we go out or like when we do things, it's I feel kind of like the token protector, and like it's very much just like we'll be walking around and like, oh, this one time we went to a bar and it was like I was standing, they were at the bar and I was right behind them because they were ordering, and like I was just waiting my turn, and like I felt someone's hand like come towards them, and like I shifted over, and like I felt I felt really just terrible like in that moment. And I was like I want to sympathize with like men, and I guess it does kind of go back, circling back to like it is a portion of people, and like because of like a certain portion of people, then it leads to this perception that all of those people are like this. And it's like, for me personally, like I said, like I try my best not to be a creeper. Like I'm not gonna approach someone just because that's like my own personality and like my own shyness. But it's like I see people that like do it in like a positive way, or like what I perceive as a positive way. I just sit in my loneliness. That's what I do. Asteria knows this very well.
Yeah, and like I've had a situation like that where you, and I've done this with people I know, and I've also done this with someone I didn't know. I was at a music festival, and there was a girl near me, and she was dancing. I don't know if this is a while ago, so not all the details are perfectly clear anymore. But I remember like some guy, this random guy, like came up behind her, just like started like dancing, like grinding on her, and like I turned, I saw it happen, I saw the look on her face, and like she was like that really uncomfortable, like, oh my god, what the fuck kind of look. So I went over, I was like, hey man, she's with me, and then like I kind of stood behind her, and she's like, oh my god, thanks. I just kind of like blocked her off until he left, and I was like, all right, there you go, and I just kind of wandered back to my spot. So she was appreciative of that.
Aww.
So I've done that before.
Good stuff. Good. That's some allyship right there.
Yeah, man, I never talked to her again. That was it.
I mean, such as it is.
Yeah. Because I don't want to be creepy.
Right. And like that's what I'm saying though. It's like it sucks because you can't always tell how this is gonna go, and it fucking sucks because it could have a great outcome where you probably may have saved somebody from dealing with shit, or you could have a chance of connection, or something, right? Something great can come out of it, and it could be stuff that continues to like reinforce or like continues to open up wounds for you, and like, or kind of hurt, like continue to like press on the button of trauma and pain inside of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it just fucking sucks. Like, in summary, I think being a human is exhausting. I
will agree with that.
There's such an ebb and flow of things where it's like you have to take such a risk, and that risk could be very enlightening and wonderful and everything like that, and it could also be harmful and hurtful, and it's just really difficult to kind of decipher. So I just wanted to kind of just hold space for that.
Yeah, because like we just, like, I'm sure Wookiee's on the same page, we just don't know when it's safe to make any sort of, or take our shot, if you will, because yeah.
It's also like, it also sucks because, like, from my perspective, again, like I said, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt more than anything, and I've been put in positions where Like, I've been harassed.
How's it going, Bang
I've
Clock?
been like stalked. I've been like threatened because I did just talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just unfortunate because this goes into what I think, like, many a times we get so caught up in this comparison place between, well, this is what we have to go through, this is what we have to go through. And I was like, hey, there's a lot of things we mutually probably have in common with each other, if we actually talked about the actual problem rather than just kind of ignoring the surface stuff all the time. And I think we do. I don't think that, like, folks talk to each other vulnerably enough for then things to change in the long run, because again, people would rather continue to reinforce that this stuff goes on because they're too scared of actually talking about and feeling out where this kind of shit has, like, left us and how it's impacted our ability to connect with one another, in my opinion.
Let's see. Dat Big Bang Clock jumped into chat. Love the name. Yeah.
Thank you. That was just, there was so much emphasis. I was just like, I'm not laughing at you, into whoever you are. It's just, I was like, okay. I was like, damn. It's like they have entered the room.
That's a presence to be had. They said, today I went to the pool in my town just so I could go in the deep end underwater and scream expletives. Very cathartic.
I haven't heard that one. That sounds like a great idea. I scream in my car. Everyone has their own thing, though. But you said
I'm gonna go screaming in the car for 200, please.
Yeah, I've done that also. But the pool sounds refreshing.
But that sounds refreshing, right? Like, I'm usually just kind of like, I got the AC on sometimes to really add a little extra flavor of anger. I kind of roll the windows up and I just kind of melt a little bit because it gets me a little bit more angry and amplifies my scream. But that's good. And I'm happy to hear that it's cathartic, and I hope that it's kind of like helps manage and bring down the level of, like, overall stress for you. So thanks for sharing.
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. Let's see. Hey Shaker says, I don't talk to women unless I have to. I can't take the body shaming. Ooh, been there. I'm sure, Wiki, you've been there too.
100%. That's.
I'm gonna step back.
Yeah. Hey Shaker, I know. Yeah. Hey Shaker, I know it doesn't look like it, but I used to be pretty overweight. Probably about 10 years ago. I did make a change in my life that got me to where I'm at now, so I look a lot better, at least in my opinion. But I understand where you're coming from, and it sucks. And I wish I had an answer for you on how to deal with that, but I am still obviously traumatized from that crap, because here we are, even as an athlete, I got like pretty much a six-pack abs and all that stuff now, but it's just I still feel like women look at me and go, that guy probably smells like Brussels sprouts. That is disgusting. Ew. Like
like Brussels sprouts.
Nobody likes Brussels sprouts. And so
I got a sign with Kilton on this one. I'm down with the Brussels sprouts.
But yeah, I got nothing. If you got any advice, Wookie, go for it. And Asteria, if you got anything you want to help battle that thought. God damn it, I'm losing the words here. Contradict that thought or whatever.
Okay, the floor is yours, Wookie.
Wookie first. Do you have any advice?
Like in my personal opinion, the way I handle it personally, which probably isn't like the healthiest, is just I focus myself on being like the best version of myself. And because I've definitely struggled with this in the opposite way that Kilton went through, which is like I got to a point where I was happy with myself, and due to like a relationship and like the spiraling of everything, it led me to like a certain point in my life where, you know, I'm overweight, I'll say that. I'll own up to it. But like the thing for me that kind of helps is just having that like personal belief that's like life is gonna happen the way it is, and like the only thing I can do, like even if I talk to people, is just be the best version of myself that I feel I can be. And it's like if someone would rather just look at my exterior and judge me for that, then I really like don't want to be around them. Because I don't know if Asteri will back me up on this one, but I feel like I'm a pretty amazing human being.
That's true.
And yeah, I totally understand the body shaming, and I definitely still struggle with it and deal with it. I just keep my head to myself. And you know, if people have a problem with how I look, then that tells me more about you than it does about me. Like,
Yes.
if you're gonna focus just on how I look and not the fact that, you know, I'm trying to have an actual conversation or like trying to get to know you, that's on you. If that's how you're gonna be, I'm just gonna move on to find someone else.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good mindset to have. I wish I had that mindset. I mean, I really do. Because that's a hard one to gather, in my opinion. Well, for me, anyway. But yeah, I mean, and like the only thing I can say is like a little bit of hope, I guess, is right now. I don't know what's going on, but apparently dad bods are becoming all the rage. So
Yeah.
being super in shape
Oh.
like myself is actually working against me at this point. Which is kind of a bummer, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Now I'm here. I'm in this conversation now. Okay.
I'm gonna
Okay.
circle back to the hope thing because I've got a quote I live by like every day.
Okay. You can say it. You can say it because I'm gonna go on a good one. So please,
Okay.
the floor is yours.
I will say,
I'm about to get a drink for this one.
as a kid, like I grew up listening to like Aaron Carter and like NSYNC and all that.
I'm giggling.
Do you want to play like blatant laughter? Go ahead.
Chaos. Like one of the quotes like that came from an Aaron Carter song was "Treat every day like you're gonna get your first kiss," and
Actually, not bad.
that's kind of like my take on it, and it's like that got me through like a lot of like really really low points in like my self-esteem. And I mean, like ultimately for everyone it's gonna be different in like how you feel, and all I can say is I'm sorry that you're going through that. I'm sorry that you feel that way. Like just know, like just try your best. Like that's all anyone here can do. And it's just yeah.
Yeah, and they're saying that all that's left is lying to myself, but like we said earlier, are you really lying to yourself?
Exactly. Are you really lying to yourself? Oh man, okay.
Or are you just reinforcing what you think other people are saying?
I feel like Etheria is like one of those characters like Popeye where they're just like wheeling their arm up to like sucker punch us with like some mental health.
Oh my god, Kilton, you said such good stuff. Ah! Okay, sorry.
I'm about to blush.
So, no, you guys, stop.
Stop
Anyway,
it.
stop it. Okay, first of all, dad bods, yes. Oh, that's some good shit. Okay, sorry. No,
Artemis.
I'm not sorry. That's the shit that makes it makes my toes curl. Like, that's some good stuff. Anyway, so dad bods, yes. Okay, but second of all, dad bods again, just to really bring it home. But third, is this. I think once again, it really breaks my heart. And again, the mental health piece I was gonna bring up, Kilton pretty much already said it. the relationship that we have with our bodies is subjective to our own, as reinforced by our upbringing and our society, right? And I'm saying this not only just as a mental health piece, but also just somebody that's pretty much been like a plus size person their whole life. So much I was reinforced, and I grew up during a time, because I'm 85 years old, that I grew up during a time that there was like a very popular diet culture going around, and the thing that was like that was equated to attraction was hyper skinniness, like super skinny. I never understood that, but that's neither here nor there. And so I kept on thinking for a long time, oh, I'm never gonna be thin, despite, because I used to do activities, like I was in ROTC, I used to do running, I did all these things, blah blah, all these things. And I also lived with trauma where some people drink, some people use social media, some people use caffeine. I use food for comfort. It just is what it is. I don't feel bad about it either, because I didn't ask for the trauma to begin with. So, but even in changing the relationship I have with food now, I realized, and like even looking back to younger photos of me when I was younger, I was like, I wasn't the like biggest person. I was like, but I had such a dysphoria of my body that I reinforced the message that I was unattractive because of the size of my body, right? And I feel like it plays such an impact in my ability to connect because of the disconnect I have with myself, right? So now, like, I have worked on the relationship I have with myself. I fucking love myself. I think I'm great. Bee's knees, like, all the way, right? And in that, I've realized it never had to do anything with how I physically look. It's that, because again, if we think about like the impact of society of like and like the value of self based on our physical appearance and attraction and all of that, it's still trauma. Because again, you're saying I have to be a conditional self in order to receive love, not only from others but from me, to me. And by doing that and still reinforcing that, you're still reinforcing the trauma. You are lying to yourself. Period.
Yeah. Hey, Shaker saying, well, good thing. Like, I think they're talking about the dad bods, and Darth Jammin says dad bods for the win. But Hey Shaker says, good thing that they aren't ugly, and they're saying, I'm guessing to you, Asteria, good thing that she wasn't the biggest person. I might be putting emphasis on the wrong words there, so don't take my reading exactly.
Oh, whatever.
But
yeah.
So what would you recommend for Hey Shaker? My thought would be, so we can possibly help them a bit, is maybe for the next week, kind of gather all these thoughts that you're feeling and write them down, why you feel this way, and it's just kind of like, put it in a nice package, and then next week come back in with what you've come up with, and then we can kind of break it down and see if we can kind of like pick this apart a little bit. Does that sound like something good? Or
I think that would be really good, because again, I think that gives more basis and more, it's like doing kind of like it's like doing a scientific experiment on self.
Yeah.
Because you're gathering, like, you have a hypothesis, now let's get the research, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, because again, we can get a very real look at what is truly going on versus what has been reinforced by a much smaller area of the world / what is being reinforced by self. And I think that's a great way to, because again, like I said at the beginning, the skill of checking the facts, getting that information can be helpful. And then we can say, what is true, what is not true, and where can you start to reinforce a different perspective of self that can eventually be supported and challenged mentally, which will then, after enough consistency and reinforcement, will diminish the relationship that you currently have with body and can change it into a different perspective and relationship with body.
Yes. And what'd you say about like the not positive reinforcement of yourself, like neutral, like statements towards yourself? Like you wake up, you look in the mirror, and you go, "Yep, that's a shoulder right there, and that's a nose. That's a nose."
I love the using the skill of saying neutral statements to yourself, because again, many times people, like, I already know that many people's like messages that they receive from the world and stuff, and like their traumas are gonna about to fight what I'm about to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway. I don't think people are fat. I think people have fat. And I think it's a really important distinction, because when we say we are something, then we do not allow the possibility for the room for value of self that is outside of that, right? So, like, another way I see it as, for me, I don't say I'm a good person. And I know a lot of people like tightly grasp onto the message of I am a good person, I am a good person, I am a good person. Why? Right? Why do you need to tightly grasp the message of I am a good person, right? Because more than likely, good people, air quotes, good people get love, connection, and community. And bad people get disconnect, avoided, ignored, and isolated, right? So it's not a matter of being good versus being bad. It's that I am a person that wants love, and I've learned that certain actions and behaviors do that, increase the likelihood of me getting it versus not receiving it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I do the message very similar to the concept of fat, is I say I am a person that does good things. Because if we keep on hanging on to the message of like I am a good person, in the times that you do human error, because we do this because perfectionism is a form of addiction. No, I will not be elaborating at this time. That if we have human error and that does not fall in the realm of being good because we make mistakes, then we adopt shame, guilt, and self-deprecate and look down upon ourselves because we didn't meet this criteria we held for ourselves. Right. I am a person that has fat because fat fluctuates. It's like you could be a body that loses weight even in the times that you're eating a whole fucking pie and a lasagna and a fucking Diet Coke, and you could be as thin as a rod, while the next body could have a whole pie, lasagna, and a Diet Coke, and they could have more fat, right? Yeah. It's so subjective to each body, metabolism, chemistry, biology, access to physical health, access to groceries or healthy there's so much that constitutes that with the relationship of body, that I think of saying like I'm a person that has fat is like start to say that we are somebody that is outside of what is held on our body. And in that, we can increase the likelihood that there's other characteristics that define us outside of what society places upon us.
All right. Hey Shaker says, I wish beauty really was subjective. And I am going to say that it is subjective because, honestly, there is someone at my school who I find attractive that I bet you if you'd put her up like on a panel, they'd be like, no, on that one. And like she probably gets zero attention, but I like her because like she's smart, she's like pretty funny, and she's kind of quiet and keeps to herself. She doesn't dress all flashy or anything. She looks like, it looks like everything she wears is probably like 2 sizes too big. So you know, she's always wearing like sweatpants and like a big old pullover and stuff. Like she like does not do it up at all. But I find her attractive for other reasons. So beauty is subjective. That's why
Beauty is subjective.
yeah, that's why sometimes you'll see this bombshell girl with some guy who looks like he probably should buy some teeth, and you know, it's I don't know, she just finds it attractive. Who knows? You never know what people are into.
That's why it's like, again, it's like, is it a matter of like that there's a lack of attraction of self, or is it more so that the people that hold the weight or that you're giving opportunities to value you may not align with and say that you're their form of attraction, and therefore you give them the power to say what is attraction and what is not attraction? I think that's really important because, again, it increases the opportunity to see what are other things that constitute as attraction. Like when I was growing up, I thought what was enough to be someone or to be a person that I would be in a relationship with is if like they liked video games, which that didn't really fucking that didn't really kind of like bring down the numbers. Yeah, because I was like, a lot of people play video games. But there's so many extra pieces to it. And so what I constitute as attraction, what you do, what Wookiee does, what everyone does, all will look the same, right? And something that a clinician once said, they said, don't yuck somebody else's yum. I thought that was silly, and I get the point. Because no matter what you find is unattractive or that doesn't do it for you, that does not mean it is therefore unattractive for all.
Gotcha. Hey Shaker says, thank you for trying to help me. It's much appreciated. Hey Shaker, like I said, you know, write down some of your thoughts over the next week, and then come back again this time next week, and you know, maybe we can kind of break this down further and see if we can help you a bit more. Because it sounds like, you know, this might need a little more digging into. This one, this one can be a little bit tough, so we might be able to help you out somewhere. Just kind of think about what we said, and then, you know, bring in your thoughts. Just write it down. Be like, all right, this is what I'm thinking. Bring it in, and we'll see what we can help you with.
I know that we're probably wrapping up soon.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, I just want to laugh a little bit, and I'm going to highlight this real quick because I know that there were certain things that were trying to be brought into this stream today.
Mm-hmm.
And I have diverged once again. Okay, that's it. That would make sense to anybody, particularly. But there were topics that got that were not discussed today, and I'm just giving myself a little high five. Ready? Ha.
Is that a good thing that they weren't discussed, or?
No, it's a bad thing.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, back to you, Kilton.
All right. Well, I guess we can do this again next week. Secret Wookiee, thank you for coming in. It's good having you in here. You can come back again anytime. It's actually nice having a third person in here.
I said so, and I think Secret Wookiee is a good one to talk because of the perspective that he brings.
Yes, and also, crap, I don't remember his online name. Your
it's
we don't know their freaking online name.
I don't know his online name. Hold on, it's Unburdened Weeb.
Yeah, Weeb. There we go. Yeah.
Weeb. Yeah, Weeb can come back. So I wonder if he's listening. I saw him earlier today, but if he can come back too because he is a clinician. So
yes.
If you're listening, I miss you and I hope you can join sometime.
Okay. Well, that's it for us. What do I call him? Chatamaran? Oh, that's a good one. I like that. I had that run. Chatamaran.
Change yourself again.
Yeah. Chat if it was a boat. The
Chat
Chatamaran.
if it was a boat.
Thanks for jumping aboard the Chatamaran and hanging out. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. So 6:30 p.m. Pacific time for more Therapy Thursday. Streams in between. Well, I don't think I have anything planned this weekend, so you might see some Isaac on Saturday or Sunday morning. And again, we'll be back on Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific time for Two Wheel Tuesday. We're going to be going on stage 3 of the Tour de Zwift, which is a 5-stage race series throughout the month of October. So we get on the bike and pedaling our tuchuses off. So if you want to watch me essentially physically die, come on over and watch that. All right,
Remember to breathe and drink water.
Yes, drink water and breathe. Thank you, Wookie, and thank you, Asteria, for stopping by. We'll see you guys later.
Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So, if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for making it to the end. If you want to watch this live and join in and you have questions, please check the link in the description below the video or go to twitch.tv/kilted_pork. That'll take you to my page, and then you can see my 2 mainstream that I do on the schedule, so you can go check that out. Yeah, have a wonderful evening, everybody, or weekend or whatever, until we see you next time. Drink water, get some sleep, go eat some food or something, and yeah. Okay, bye chat. Bye.